2009, just 7 years after joining the combined Counties League, the Dons arrive at the top level of non-league football, the Blue Square Premier, still referred to by many as the Conference. Before that though, a few side dishes in the form of friendly fixtures, beginning with Wycombe Wanderers. Curse of Matt Harrold striking again there, scoring the only goal of the match for Wycombe before the visit of FC United of the Unibond Premier. Two goals just prior to half-time, taking the Supporters Direct Cup. One last friendly against a strong Fulham 11. Impressive win against Fulham, but now the serious stuff and an opening match worthy of a live TV broadcast. The two 1988 domestic cup winners, Wimbledon and Luton Town. A good point then against the Hatters. 3 more are expected at Priory Lane Eastbourne, where 1,200 travelling fans boosted the crowd to over 3,000. Disappointment in East Sussex, but a great result the following Saturday as Kettering Town are beaten 2-1 by the Dons up at Rockingham Road. Next up was a midweek game against Salisbury City.
Presentation will take place on the pitch at Wimbledon. It's the fourth goal for Wimbledon, the second tonight for our man of the match, 18, Luton.
A sign of things to come for Salisbury. It would be a season of misery for them, eventually ending in demotion. Playing at this level would mean long distance away fixtures like the next one at Altrincham in the posh part of Cheshire.
Johnson gets his shot in, it deflected off Chris Denham and could have caused problems for James Pullen. He was going the right way and the deflection didn't change the direction of the ball. It has Kearney. Good shot on target, and James Pullen happy to fist that one over the bar. Hatton it is with the ball, running at Matt Doughty. Gets the cross in. And Stuart Colburn having to be very acrobatic to fist that one away. The header by Derek Duncan. Little. Saved by the feet of Pullen. Great chance for Colin Little. Godfrey just losing out, but Conroy quickly across to get the momentum going forward again. Now it's Kedwell, it's a goal! A goal out of nothing, but it was always a goal that Wimbledon have threatened to pinch. Hatton, Main, must score. Holton goal missed, and of course Altringham's defenders just looking on. Now it's Young, plays it to Heffernan, in the box, across the goal. Oh, number 12 Rob Williams, a great chance. And that's what happens, I suppose, when a centre-half becomes a striker. He's now got cramp as a result of his exertions, but
3 wins out of 3 as Danny Kedwell's late winner secures the points. For the second time this season, the Dons have entertained former Football League Cup winners, this time Oxford United. Jay Conroy's own goal and Danny Kedwell's missed penalty contributing to a somewhat fortunate win for the visitors. Bank Holiday Monday brought out the crowds at Grays Athletic, the travelling faithful swelling the gate to 5 times the Grays average. the Dons returning to winning ways against Grays, who included Glenn Poole in their starting lineup. At Tamworth, the Dons recovered from 2 down to earn a point against the Lambs, both goals coming from Danny Kedwell, and yet more illustrious visitors next, Cambridge United. They'd once played in a playoff for promotion to the English top division, but now plied their trade in the conference. Good point against Cambridge, who surprised everybody by switching their amber and black strip to one of light blue. Very odd. The Dons had never beaten a team called Ebbsfleet United before, though many fans may remember playing and beating their predecessors, Gravesend and Northfleet. Ebbsfleet, with former Dons Lewis Cumbers and Will Salmon, held thanks to that last gasp Ross Montague goal. A midweek home match against Crawley Town next. the Dons having to take just a point against Crawley, who scored their goal following a dodgy free kick award. Histon were next, and they had a familiar face in goal.
Number 9, Danny Kedwell.
Danny Nesbitt and Histon conceding 4 without reply, and the latest unbeaten run continued at impressive Nen Park, the Dons overcoming Rushden Diamonds, a goal from Ross Montague early on. Kidderminster provided the next opposition and, like Rushden, had enjoyed a recent, though brief, run in the Football League. Harriers with their go down, stay down strategy paying off there. But better news at Forest Green Rovers, the Dons winning 5-2. On to Kettering at home. Remember, the Poppies had already been beaten once by Wimbledon a few weeks earlier. Kettering exacting revenge for that earlier defeat. The Dons have now lost their last 2 home games, yet won their last 2 away ones, and the good away form continued in the FA Cup at Crawley Town, earning a 1-1 draw. The replay 3 days later took on an extra interest, knowing that the winners would face a trip to Millwall. Dons overcoming Crawley despite playing the second half with only 10 men. A poor performance at Chester would later turn out to be irrelevant, with City not being able to fulfil their fixtures, John Mayne losing his goal and Paul Lorraine delighted to lose his own goal. Sadly, we could not obtain any footage from the Millwall game, the Dons staying in that match until 4 minutes from time. Paul Lorraine's own goal counting this time though in the draw at Holker Street. York City arrived at Kings Meadow sitting in 6th place in the table. Dons going down to York City with barely a whisper there in the entire 96 minutes. The next opponents, Ebbsfleet, were on a ragged run and had only won once in the league all season and had not even scored in their last 7 games. The Ebbsfleet game going to form, an easy 3-0 win. Against Kidderminster, Will Hendry would make his debut for the Dons, who were looking to avenge that 1-0 defeat. Satisfying victory over Kidderminster, and there would be another at troubled Salisbury. John Main scoring twice to bring his goal tally to double figures, making nonsense of so-called expert Paul Parker's opinion that John would struggle in the conference. Yet another former league club, though not since 1960, were next, Gateshead. Gateshead easily overcome, and so were combined counties opponents Ash United in the Surrey Senior Cup, with 6 Wimbledon players getting on the score sheet in a 7-1 win. The reward for that, Camberley Town at home in the next round. The Dons had struggled against Boreham Wood when both teams were in the Ryman League, so the FA Trophy tie offered a chance for revenge. The Dons leaving it late to beating old adversaries Boreham Wood there. No game for 14 days until Boxing Day for the visit of Hayes and Yedding United.
Is Phil's little and Rio out there playing football at all, you know?
Second goal for the Dons this afternoon, and the score number 15, Stephen Gregory.
Christmas coming a day late for the Dons there, beating local rivals Hayes and Yedding by an impressive 5-0. Just 48 hours later, the Dons would face a much sterner test away to second place Stevenage. Tremendous draw there against Stevenage Borough. The new year started with an icy cold January the 1st and a disappointing return match at Hayes and Yedding. Despite this setback, the Dons still held a playoff spot in the league, very respectable 5th place behind Stevenage Borough, Oxford United, York City and the next opponents Mansfield Town, a game tinged with sadness following the death of Alan Batsford.
And also congratulations to the Blue Square manager for December 2009, the Dons' very own Terry Brown.
Anfield, beaten by 2 early goals, including one from Nathan Elder making his debut. The Greys' athletic game had to be put back to make way for the rearranged FA Trophy match against Altrincham. Altrincham claiming the best goal of the game but little else, and their supporters' howls for Seb Brown's dismissal were disregarded by the referee. Defeat at the racecourse with a hotly contested goal left a nasty taste in the mouth, and then the Surrey Senior Cup tie with Camberley Town produced 100 dreary minutes of football before it sprang into life.
Both sides in scoring their first 5 penalties each. We now go into sudden death.
We'd show James Pullen scoring his penalty there in the penalty shootout, which finished 6-5 in the Dons' favour. When Workington dropped out of the Football League, it was Wimbledon who replaced them, which added a bit of spice to the FA Trophy match between the two sides. Dons throwing away an excellent opportunity to progress to the trophy quarter-finals, beaten 3-2 by Blue Square North side Workington, who would go on to make the playoffs in that division. The Dons gaining a reprieve in the London Senior Cup tie at Tooting and Mitcham, being 1-0 down with 20 minutes to go, the game being abandoned due to a frozen pitch. The home match with Forest Green Rovers, though, did go ahead despite the continuing poor weather. Two early goals and some quirky refereeing decisions seeing off Forest Green Rovers, and after 190 minutes of football, the Dons could not overcome Tooting and Mitcham in the London Senior Cup. It was eventually settled on penalties, 4-3 in the Dons' favour. A reasonable point was earned at Cambridge in a 2-2 draw at the Abbey, and even better was the victory at Kenilworth Road against Luton Town. Both teams had met in April 1991 in Football League Division 1, the forerunner of the Premier League. The third successive away game inside 10 days took Wimbledon to another high-profile club, Oxford United. No joy at the Kassam Stadium, but better luck at another old opponent, further down the pyramid though this time, Chipstead in the Surrey Senior Cup. very late goals seeing the Dons scrape past Chipstead and set up an away tie at Godalming Town. Altrincham next for their second visit of the season. Altrincham playing much better than they did in the FA Trophy, earning a point this time. A 2-1 defeat at Crawley was followed by a win at Harrow Borough in the London Senior Cup in front of a stingy crowd of just 110. The Dons' fourth game in 8 days gave them an opportunity to avenge an early season defeat at the hands of Eastbourne. Efficient 2-0 win against Eastbourne, with Danny Kedwell's goal leaving the Borough keeper frozen in time. Due to the 11th hour postponement of the game at York City, there was no game for 10 days until Barrow arrived at a rain-soaked Kingsmeadow. John Mayne's penalty miss proving costly against the Barrow side belying their league position. Rushden Diamonds at last. They were originally due to arrive 3 years earlier for an FA Trophy match, but that's history now, of course. The Dons beaten by an offside goal and some Oscar-winning performances by Rushton's allegedly injured players. Something would have to be earned from the Wrexham game if AFC Wimbledon were to avoid losing 3 games in succession for the first time.
Sent over the line, score by number 28, Glenn Ball.
Again, the Dons should have won comfortably, eventually scraping a draw via a penalty deep into injury time. Something a little more stringent was required at Histon, only a Brett Johnson own goal spoiling the day in a 3-1 win. A miserly 867 at that one, but almost 4,000 for the next game against promotion certainties Stevenage Borough. hopes of a playoff place disappearing after that 3-0 defeat. The Dons would have just 48 hours to prepare for the away match at York City. The Dons sunk without trace at York City. The games were now coming in thick and fast. The away match at Godalming in the Surrey Senior Cup was just 24 hours after the York game, so Terry Brown fielded a completely different lineup. No joy in the Surrey Senior Cup then, but at Mansfield Town, the Dons' 5th game in a week, things perked up. Seb Brown, undoubtedly man of the match at Mansfield, saving those 2 very late penalties. With the Dons now playing for pride in the league, 3 points looked certain against relegated and soon to be homeless Grays Athletic. Julian Dick's side recording their first away win of the season, cheering up their 15 fans ensconced in the Kingston Road end. The tournament switched from the conference to the London Senior Cup. This was the semi-final, the opponents Croydon Athletic. AFC Wimbledon earning a trip to Harrow Borough to face the Met in the London Senior Cup final. Meanwhile, the Dons' dismal league form continued at home to Tamworth, still in danger of relegation. Tamworth winning and avoiding the drop there. Yet another lacklustre performance, this time at Gateshead, would mean that the Dons would finish in 8th place. Stevenage Borough worthy champions, and Oxford United via the playoffs, both gaining promotion, with Grays and Ebbsfleet going in the opposite direction, together with Chester City, who capitulated mid-term, and Salisbury City, who were demoted over finances. Forest Green there gaining an unexpected reprieve. Still one game to go though, the London Senior Cup final.
They're looking for you, Gary.
Yeah, okay. Well, you're going to see. You're going there.
Well, that's it. 8th place in the conference. Not bad. For 2010-11, the Dons will be full-time, so maybe that Football League place, stolen some years ago, will be recovered.
Steve Chambers. For Wimbledon, in goal, Dave Besson. Number 2, Clive Goodyear. Number 3, Terry Fellon. Number 4, Vince Jones. Number 5, Brian Gale.
Number 6, Andy Thorne. Number 7, Dennis Wise. Number 8, Alan Corp. Number 9, John Bashinu. Number 10, Lloyd Sanchez. Number 11, John Scales. And the substitutes, number 12, Vaughan Ryan. Number 14, Robbie Turner. Wimbledon, Alan Cole. Alan Cole. First of all, anyone wishing to travel to Fulham on Saturday the 6th of February, a week today, coaches will be running, departure time. Is in the corner of the west stand and north stand. That's the young boy, 5 years old, who has lost his dad, David Marriott, his name, and he is on the corner of the north stand and the west stand. For Wimbledon, Terry Field.
to memory of Alan Batsford. We've got a lot of former heroes here. You just heard the names read out. Everybody's here to honour the memory of Alan Batsford, who unfortunately passed away over Christmas and is sorely missed by everybody in the club. First of all, I'd like the warmest reception possible for Mrs. Maureen Batsford, please, ladies and gentlemen. We're very honoured. Thank you. We're really honoured that you could make it today, Maureen. Thank you very much. We're going to have a few recollections and some memories from a few of that great old team, and we think it's appropriate that we start with the captain, Mr. Ian Cook. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Ian Cook.
When Alan came to the club in 1974, things were at a pretty low ebb. But he soon taught us that hard work, fitness and 100% commitment would bring success. In 3 years, he achieved the unthinkable. We won 3 league titles at the highest level of non-league football, and Alan started the revolution that got Wimbledon to where they were in the Premiership. He was such a nice man. I got to know him in the last few years as a friend. We sat up there many weeks, many matches, and he's always been as sharp as anything, picking out all the good points that he sees going on here. And we've lost, sadly, a very nice man who will always be remembered.
Thank you, Ian. Now, I think that this man was one of our former, slightly unsung heroes, but Billy was very, very close to Alan, as lots of people were, but I think he came to probably more matches here at AFC Wimbledon with Alan than anybody else. So, I'd like Billy Edwards just to say a few words. Thank you, Bill.
I was fortunate enough to know Alan for about 40 years, and not only was he my manager as a player, he was my mentor as a coach, and he became mine and many others close to me best friend. When AFC reformed, Alan and I would come along on a regular basis, and Alan was delighted that the club has come back to life and is going to go from strength to strength. We came on Boxing Day, the day before he died, and he was interrogating Ivor about what's going to happen when we get in the league. So all I can say is that Alan Batsford is Wimbledon, was Wimbledon, and will always be Wimbledon. Thank you.
Described that Alan was his mentor, but at the time he didn't know it. So, you know who this is. I want to pass you over to the one and only Dave Bassett.
I don't know whether most people know Alan Batsford and knows about, because he come and got hold of me when I was a skillful. He used to get sent off every week, and he brought me to Walton Hersham, and he embedded me there, and we had a great time. And he was the first manager that I realised that knew about coaching. I used to go to other clubs where the clubs was. We ran about, we passed the ball, but we really didn't know what we were doing. And I know didn't know what we was doing either, but that was probably down to us. But I mean, and then I came to Wimbledon, and Alan introduced me to Dickie Guy, Ian Cook, Selwyn Rice, Glenn Aitken, Jeff Bryant, etc. And it was one of those situations, because I make the point that without Alan Batsford, there'd be no Wimbledon Football Club in the Football League, there'd have been no Crazy Game, and there'd have been no Dave Bassett, that's for sure. So I owe an enormous amount of respect. Again, I think the Crazy Gang get carried around. I've got to be quite honest, looking at this mod, they were fairly crazy. I can tell you some of the things Kieran Summers got up to, but it's not... And anybody who knows Kevin Tiddy, he's a lunatic, and that. And John Leslie, oh, what a nuisance. John thought he ran about really working hard. You know, I did have to point out a few things on occasions, but I know Alan had been very respectful for what's gone on and everything else, and he didn't get the credit as a non-league manager as he should, because what he achieved at Walton Hersham, Wimbledon, Hillingdon and Wilstone was unbelievable for that period of time. But as I say, I'm extremely grateful. I shall miss him enormously, and I'm sure we will, and hopefully AFC Wimbledon achieve what we achieved in those years to come. Many thanks.
Well, I probably wasn't as close to Alan as the other lads that have spoken today, but I think it just shows the amount of respect he's held in by virtually the whole side that he managed in the 70s at the club. To me, the man was a perfect gentleman, and it's safe to say that without Alan at the helm in the 70s, I don't think we'd be here today. And the man was a legend. Thank you.